Welcome back. I'm joined by Championship correspondent Pascal Lemaire to the first leg of the playoff semi-final on Friday evening between Brentford and Middlesbrough. Pascal, start with the away side. Stuttered at the end of the season, could have won their last two games. It would have finished in the automatics. Missed out on that, but they probably started as tied as favourites.
Yeah, they probably do start it just as favourites. Like you say, had they won their last two games, they would have finished above Watford in second place. So, you know, it's a very disappointing way to end the season, especially the games they were as well. You know, Fulham away from home, they were sort of down near the bottom. You know, they looked fairly safe, and they lost that one 4-3. It was an incredible game there. And then on the final day of the season, they host Brighton. You know, they knew they couldn't. You know, they knew that Bournemouth. You know, unless there was the whole talk about, you know, could there be a 20-goal swing? Obviously, that's never going to happen. Bournemouth and Watford were the two promoted sides, but yeah, you know, had they taken six points instead of one, you know, they would have gone up. And it's astonishing to think that when you see that they were two probably winnable fixtures for them. On the final day of the season, they host Brighton, who, you know, were saved. They're down at the bottom. They've not had a great season at all. But Aitor Karanka, you know, he knew they were going to be at least two more games coming up, maybe three in the playoffs, and he rested a lot of his key players. So there should be a lot of changes here. We'll sort of go back to his first 11, but yeah, it was certainly a disappointing way to end the season. But the 0-0 draw with Brighton, that was their 21st clean sheet of the season from 46 games. You know, that's more than anyone else in the league, and you know, that's what their good season was built on, their defence. You know, by far the best defence in the league this season, and it's something they'll certainly hope to. You know, he'll want more clean sheets in the playoffs, that's for sure. And you know, but it's certainly, yeah, like you say, it wasn't the best way to finish the season. But given the quality they've got in the team, I think there's more big game experience in these players than the Brentford team. So you'd expect Borough to start as favourites, and on the whole, they had a pretty good season. It was a disappointing finish, but they are still in the playoffs. They've still got a really good chance to go up, and I think, you know, the way it worked out, you know, they started the final day in third place, but then because they drew with Brighton, Norwich beat Fulham, so Norwich went above them into third. And I think Karanka will look back on it and be quite disappointed that they didn't finish third, because they would have, the way the tables worked out, they would have got Ipswich in the playoffs. And I think Ipswich going into the playoffs, they're the weakest team out of all four, I think, because Brentford, even though this is their first season, you know, since promotion to League One, Brentford have got a lot of talented players, and I think they can be a danger to any team on any one day. Whereas Ipswich, I think they're good at what they do. They're quite stubborn, but I think Middlesbrough, they played Ipswich. I think it was about a month or two ago. They beat them 4-1, so they would have been quite confident playing Ipswich. I think Brentford here is quite a tough tie for them, but yeah, they probably just start as slight favourites.
It'd probably be fair to say, moving on to Brentford, it'd probably be fair to say that not many people predicted them to finish in the top six in the season. Got there on the final weekend of the season ahead of Derby.
Yeah, it was an incredible final day, wasn't it? Always the Championship, you know, there's always drama on the final day of the season, and yeah, I think Brentford, they knew that. I think they would have expected that Ipswich would have been the side they overtook. They did overtake Ipswich because they had the better goal difference. Them, Wolves, and Ipswich all finished on 78 points, but I don't think anyone saw that Derby result coming, losing 3-0 at home to Reading, who hadn't won any of their previous 9 games. It came completely out of nowhere. Derby they completely bottled it. Brentford did the opposite. They won 3-0 very convincing. You know, I think they would have been quite pleased in midweek before the game to see Rotherham win their game, because that relegated Wigan. You know, if Wigan had gone into that game knowing that a win might have kept them up, then it would have been probably more difficult. But the way it turned out, it was quite a comfortable win in the end. Some really nice goals in there as well. You know, Pritchard, Jota, and Andre Gray with the 3 goals. They've been sort of maybe their 3 best forward players this season. You know, they've all had great season. Pritchard especially, on loan from Spurs, a youngster. He's a great talent, playmaker, great with free kicks. That's where the goal came from. He strikes the free kicks a bit like Cristiano Ronaldo, straight run up, and likes to sort of dip them over the wall without much curl on it. Just hits a straight ball. I got a deflection this one, so it wasn't his best one of the season, but it was a good goal. And then Jota, he was the standout player in that game. He scored some very important goals then this season, a couple of late winners, and it was a brilliant finish for the second. And then the reverse pass for Gray for the third was fantastic as well. And fair play to Brentford and Mark Warburton. You know, they went into that game, they knew it was sort of a bit of an outside chance they'd be able to get into the playoffs. They ended up finishing 5th. And I think they'll be glad to be playing Middlesbrough and not Norwich. I think Norwich is the strongest team in the playoffs, so I think they'll fancy their chances maybe of sneaking past Middlesbrough. But Brentford, you know, Mark Warburton, what a fantastic job he's done. You know, he's going at the end of the season, but you all know he's leaving, and because of the situation with the board, and they want to implement this new philosophy that he's not on board with, so he's going to be going no matter what happens. And you know, if they go up through the playoffs and he gets them up and he still has to leave, you know, you wonder if there'll be a big petition from the supporters. I'm sure there already is, you know, one to try and get him to stay, but he's already said that there's no way, no matter what happens, that I'm gonna be staying here. So that's disappointing. But I think the good thing for him is that he thought that game against Wigan was his final game at Griffin Park. But you know, this game is another chance for him to say goodbye to the fans, and he'll certainly be hoping for a win. But you look at Brentford's recent record in the playoffs; it's not been great. This is the first time they've been in the Championship playoffs, but they've been in League One playoffs 7 times. They've never won them. They got to the final 3 times, but lost every single time they got to the final. So their playoff record isn't great, but that sort of thing, you know, you can't dwell on that too much. You've just got to take it as it is now. And I think Brentford, they've got a good chance of going through this. But yeah, I think Borough are slight favourites to start.
Mentioned Brentford have got a good chance, but you fancy they'll probably have to take a lead to the second leg. Do you think they will?
I'm not sure if they will. I'm going to pick a draw in this game. You look at, when you get down to the playoffs, you look back at the two fixtures during the regular season and see how both games went. And Middlesbrough won 1-0 at Brentford in January, and then the home leg at the Riverside was 4-0 back in September. So, neither game was particularly recent. January and September, both a long time ago. So I think what Mark Warburton will be saying, don't even think about the other games we had this season. They were a long time ago. Just take it as a brand new game. But their recent record against Borough is not very good. They haven't scored in any of the last 6 games they've played with Middlesbrough, so not a great record. But I think there could be goals in this one. Brentford, a lot of Brentford's recent games have had a lot of goals. I think I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw in this one.
Thoughts on going for a 2-2 draw?